What's up, losers? Today I'm back with some more r/nice guys action. Taking a look at a couple of funny or disturbing posts from some of the nicest men one could ever hope to meet, and sharing my responses to them. This is episode 22 in the Nice Guys series, and I'm ready to hear all about the crimes of women. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Too narcissistic to have sex / meet girls. I am a college student, and I have an issue. I feel like I am too comfortable with / in love with myself to care about meeting other people. I truly believe I am one of the funniest, most charismatic, kindest, and smartest people I have ever met. I have always been in high-achieving, competitive circles, and most girls I have talked to, or befriended, just felt empty, and like they offered nothing to my life. I have some close friends, and I know a lot of people, but I have never felt the need to develop close relationships with women. I am perfectly content being by myself. However, I don't want to be single for my whole life, and I want to find the one, a kind, friendly, funny, and ego-free girl. I just struggle with fears that I'll never find someone up to my standards.
So, Mr. Nice Guy, you want a girl with no ego, so you can impose yours on her. I pity that girl, but I'm sure you'll never find her with that attitude anyway, so I'm not worried.
Haha, damn. That response, though, took the words right out of my mouth. How can you be requiring that your partner not have an ego, when you yourself think that you're the absolute bee's knees, God's gift to humanity, and perfect in every conceivable way? It really does seem like this guy just wants to find someone who will validate his inflated view of himself. And he's worried that any woman with even a shred of self-esteem will see right through him and call him on his BS. Which, to be fair, they almost certainly would, so in this sense at least, he's not entirely wrong. The weirdest part about this post is, I was actually kinda on board with it, all the way through to, I am perfectly content being by myself, not because I believe that this guy is nearly as amazing as he thinks he is, or because I think narcissism, as he describes it, is a quality to strive towards, but because I respect people who have the courage and self-assuredness to accept and embrace being single, rather than forcing themselves to enter into relationships that they don't really want, as a way of fitting in, whether it be for a temporary break from dating, or a permanent lifestyle choice. Being single is a perfectly valid way to live one's life. And frankly, I think that a lot of unneeded strife could be avoided if people were less insistent on always being in one relationship or another. Having said all of this, though, the guy immediately follows up his comment on being content alone by declaring that actually he doesn't want to be single, that he wants to find a girl who lives up to his many lofty standards, and that he's afraid that he won't find a girl who is perfect enough for him. So basically, claiming that he was happy by himself was really just another attempt to make himself seem cool and aloof, as well as restating his belief that only the best women are good enough for him, because of course it was right. Everything comes back to him and his ego. Size. What an absolute waste of everyone's time. I guess my final note on this one is, I really don't see why a guy like this would even want a girlfriend or wife. Because he clearly isn't going to get any intellectual stimulation, or genuine companionship from them, superior as he apparently is. And as for his sexual needs, well, he seems to be taking care of those just fine by himself. With this, let's say, self-congratulatory post standing as the perfect case in point, haha.
The reason you might not understand Why so many men like Joker, is because men are in a shitty world right now. Nihilism has overtaken most men. In every region, there's almost no women left on the market for them to marry. Half the pretty ones are online prostitutes now. And the other half were taken and married at 18. The rest are so far beneath your personal standards. You don't want to think about them naked. Or so disturbed inside. You would never want to open up to someone so disturbing. I know a woman who has slept with a unique man every week of her life. On average, hundreds of men. I know a woman who didn't think STDs were a subject you should care about. Or have to disclose, because there's treatment options for all of them now. I knew a woman who told me, point blank, I was just her exciting boy, to get away from her normal relationship for a while. Then ghosted me. Do you think I want to marry any of those? Or maybe the 320-pound woman. I can't even comfortably roll over, much less lift in bed. This is a real problem. For real men all over. On top of the obvious repressed sexual needs of men. And sex is a need. It is not a want. It is not video games. It's a biological imperative on all humans. To go through the song of the birds, etc. Or being born an attractive woman. Men obviously don't get the latter. And so the path to financial independence is either shady or non-existent. For most men, I'm not talking six-figure super stacks. I'm talking making enough money to own a home after a couple of years of saving up. I make $20 an hour, and I wouldn't even dream of buying a home on my own income. Inflation has wrecked men's potential to be breadwinners, and women tend to only date up. So if you are not making decent money, most women will see you as a step down or sideways. That won't sit well with any woman. So men can't earn status, respect, or sex. The world has betrayed them on everything that matters to them. This is fundamentally not what motivates women. So it's easy for you, Jenny, a woman, to not understand why men would rather watch it all burn and cheer for a guy screaming the line while shooting the show host. Men in general do want everything to burn down because there is nothing for them in it. Let it die, that something good might spawn from it. This is the thought pattern of so many men. I only barely avoid falling to this disturbed self-destructive patterns through willpower. But I cannot give you a valid argument of why a single man, past his early 20s, shouldn't feel this way, unless he is preposterously attractive, and successful through dumb luck, or blessed talent and good fortunes, and meets a good woman, who matches both his preferences, and who likes him back in a super genuine way, and wants to be with him forever, and has managed to avoid the programming of polygamy, so she won't be a cheater, like is genuinely encouraged in the modern day. There is so freaking little to live for. I say this as a 6-foot-tall, decently attractive, in shape man, with my own place, my own car, and once in a while, a woman does sleep with me. I have no addictions, no drug use, no hostility towards women in my personality. I'm not argumentative or mean. I have good etiquette and am polite. I'm not political, etc. And I still can't find so much as a date. In years of actively using Tinder, asking out women I encounter in person, and overall being as out there as my life allows. Imagine how freaking hopeless it feels for a guy who's 5'6" and not blessed with good facial structure. This is why men are increasingly cheering for villains. The world betrayed us as a whole. We built it, and it spurned us. It's tragic, and that's to touch on none of the politicized parts of the subject matter. Like being a poor working man, and watching your tax dollars go to pay for welfare babies or immigrants. When we have homeless, starving folks in America who didn't make bad life choices. who were just born to an irresponsible parent, or who got in a car crash and lost the job. Nope, more money for single moms. And people who don't even speak my language in my country. It's enough to drive many men to think the Joker had a point.
Good lord, that was rather long, wasn't it? I feel like I just read a whole ass political manifesto. But of course, it was actually just some weirdo's rambling YouTube comment. Because those are just the times we live in, huh? There's way too much here for me to respond to every point. So I think I'll just pick out the things that left the biggest impression on me. Or that I most took issue with. Here we go. I guess the first thing that sticks out to me is simply that this is another Joker-inspired post. Because it hasn't been that long since I last responded to a guy who thought he was like the Joker, and the fact that there are posts like this seemingly popping up every other day on r/niceguys really speaks to how attached certain kinds of men feel to the character. I'm not going to go into what I think this attachment might imply, because I discussed that in the previous video. So here I'll just say that the Joker's popularity is interesting, very interesting. But anyway, my first major issue with the post is the way it frames gender relations, particularly with regard to what it thinks that men and women should be entitled to from the opposite gender. The post claims that all of the pretty women are married at 18 or quote, online prostitutes, which is laughably inaccurate, but more vexingly, it seems to suggest that men, regardless of what they look like, should be entitled to women who are physically attractive, while women that the poster deems unattractive aren't good enough for anyone. Not only does this introduce a pretty simple numerical issue, i.e., there are not enough quote-unquote attractive women to go around, but it also totally biases relationships in favor of men, based on absolutely nothing more than an ingrained sense of male entitlement and superiority. And all I can say to that is, what a load of crap. I firmly believe that anyone should be able to go out with anyone, provided that each party is happy. But even if we adopt this guy's model in which physical attractiveness trumps all, that should mean that the best-looking women go out with the best-looking men, and the less attractive women go out with the less attractive men. Not that women just forego the right to be selective, so that any man can have his pick of the ladies, regardless of the way he looks, or any of the other standards by which a woman might evaluate his romantic appeal. The knots that these guys will twist themselves in, trying to justify why they deserve gorgeous, perfect women, while bringing precious little to the table themselves, honestly just blow my mind. And I genuinely don't see how anyone could possibly expect to be taken seriously when making such an immature and transparently self-serving argument, especially by the women whom they're apparently trying to win over through their efforts. Haha. My next complaint about the post is that I find its analysis of economic issues severely lacking, insofar as it assumes that problems like low wages, minimal social mobility, high house prices, and inflation only or primarily affect men, when in reality they affect women just as harshly, and often even more harshly. When you factor in added costs like childcare for single mothers, these are really serious issues for society to grapple with, and they should be a source of solidarity, particularly along class and generational lines. Yet all this guy seems to care about is that women don't give him the same attention that they would if he were an ultra-rich CEO. And instead of trying to find common ground and look for solutions to these shared social burdens, he decides to just vent about women, because at the end of the day, all that really matters is his mediocre sex life. Right, what a joke SMH. This tendency to focus only on gender war BS also skews his analysis of social welfare pretty badly, as he complains that poor people, who were raised in difficult circumstances, don't get any support from the state, while single mothers do, which really doesn't make any kind of sense as a policy critique. When you get right down to it. Like, while I'm all for the provision of greater financial support for society's poor, there's absolutely no reason why this should come at the expense of single mothers. And if you consider the fact that he's tracing the roots of poverty back to childhood deprivation, it makes even less sense. Because if you think about it for more than a second or two, it's pretty obvious that the main reason why single mothers receive support from the state is so that they're able to provide better conditions for their children to grow up in, and a greater opportunity for success in life, something that he apparently cares about. In other words, once again this guy is claiming to be concerned about economic issues, but all he really cares about is going after women for having sex with men that aren't him, and apparently immigrants too, because I guess he's a racist as well. Charming. All in all, I think that if this is what he has to offer on economic issues, he should probably keep his opinions to himself, because they're unhelpful, divisive, and most of all, inane. Another minor gripe I have about the post is that it relies on a series of personal anecdotes to evidence its claims about the nature of women and whatnot. And what can I say? I find these anecdotes wholly unconvincing, especially coming from someone as clearly biased as the post's author. Like, call me crazy, but I find it hard to believe either the story about the woman who slept with a man every week of her life, or the one about the woman who didn't think STDs were important, because they seem a little too convenient for the story the Post is trying to tell. More importantly though, it wouldn't matter even if they were true, because single anecdotes tell us precisely jack diddly squat about society as a whole. And if anything, they only reflect one's own pre-existing biases. Because I can guarantee you that this guy could have chosen any number of anecdotes from his life that painted a much different picture to these two. And it is not a coincidence that the supposed lived experience he brings to the table just happens to paint women in such a light. Following on from his penchant for anecdotes, I can't help but question whether this guy is really as attractive as his self-description seems to suggest. I mean, maybe he really is the catch that he describes himself as being. But I find it hard to believe that he would have gone years without being able to seal a date. If that were actually the case, I don't know whether he's actually much less attractive than he thinks, or if it's just his personality that is scaring the ladies off. But I am fairly confident that there is something more going on here than the Post suggests. Although really, this is neither here nor there, and it doesn't much change the substance of his critique one way or another. My last comment on the Post is more of a philosophical difference, I suppose, but I find the mindset this guy so proudly puts forward of, if I can't have everything the way I want it, we might as well burn it all down, really juvenile and unproductive. Like, it's okay to be frustrated with society, even if your reasons for feeling that way are mostly asinine. But embracing chaos, and committing random acts of violence like the Joker, is not going to make anything any better. And neither is fangirling over the character of the Joker in a movie theater. If you want to do something about issues that the Joker movie touches upon, like poverty, bullying, or mental health under-resourcing, then you should go for it. That way the movie's message will have actually meant something in the real world. But if you really just want to fantasize about exacting revenge on society, over your social, financial, and romantic failings, then maybe you should drop the self-important tone. Because I hate to break it to you, but sitting around watching movies and feeling sorry for yourself doesn't make you an edgy radical. It just makes you a sad little man with nothing to offer.
Wanna lose a girl in a week? Ask her how her day was, how she slept, get her coffee, open up, be genuine. They hate that cheat.
Okay, so I thought this would be a good, light, quick one to end on and have a bit of a laugh at. I mean, it reads like satire, but you just know it isn't. And the fact that there are tons of guys out there who would see this post and vigorously nod in agreement with it is endlessly amusing to me. Like, how fried does your brain have to be? From excessive consumption of pickup artist nonsense to seriously believe that women hate being asked how the day was, or having someone get them a coffee. Like, really guys, does this really make any kind of sense to you? Because it sure doesn't make any sense to me, haha. It's also a little sad though. Not gonna lie. I mean, these guys could, in theory at least, have a chance with women. But they're actively screwing themselves over by buying into this obvious BS. Then when this genius tactic fails to deliver the results, I guess the next step will be blaming it on their looks. Right, because as always, just being a normal person for once simply isn't an option. Sighs. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed the posts and that you got something out of my commentary. What do you think? Is it reasonable to expect your partner to be egoless while you have an ego the size of a galaxy? Do women just not understand the hidden genius of the Joker? Do women hate being asked how the day was? Which of these nice guys trademark was your favorite? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll do all kinds of horrible things to you, like asking how you are, and being genuine, and, this is the worst one of all, giving you a piece of chocolate cake. Casts. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.